There we go. So the core is so very, very important in our breathing. Um, and I think it's where a lot of us get tripped up. I know I can get really tripped up when I feel tense or tight in the core of my body. My breathing just can't get very fluid or full. And I know that I'm not alone in that. And then the other thing that happens, we can have one of two things happen with the core. Either our core can't give up, where we just have this kind of generalized tightness around all the entire area around our diaphragm, which prevents us from being able to really be full in our breathing. And then also we can have a freeze that kind of is a part of that. It may not feel in your body like tension. It might just feel like stuckness or a freeze response where we just don't have mobility. So you can kind of have the be on the tension spectrum where there's just not a lot of fluidity, mobility, or ease. But then you can also be on the spectrum of not having strength, where we're not using the muscle of our diaphragm to mobilize. So remember the diaphragm, even though it's a muscle that's under unconscious control in our body and conscious control. That it's still a muscle. And so we can get weak and we can get tense and we can get lax and we can get over strong. There's all the things that can happen with any muscle as a part of the diaphragm as well. So sometimes it can be that we have too much not laxity, because our diaphragm won't go flaccid like another muscle will because it is under autonomic control. But we can have a lack of vitality in the muscle where we're not giving its fullness. Our strength can wane a little bit where we don't use it in its fullness for both the expansion and the condensement of its movements. So I'm hoping by, kind of working with some massage around the diaphragm today that we'll have an awareness of the diaphragm. It's sometimes very hard to become aware of the diaphragm. So we can gain some awareness, body awareness, but we can also gain some freedom where we can sense, oh, that's where it's kind of locked up and I can create some more mobility there, or that's where it's a little lazy and I can create a little more vitality there. So just kind of check in with how the breath responds to the work that we're going to do with the diaphragm, but also, just throughout the day. It doesn't have to be just when you're doing yoga. Kind of sense how your diaphragm responds to different emotional states. Pay attention to how it responds to physical states like exertion. Maybe you're exercising and you might notice some things with your diaphragm. So try to just up your ante when it comes to just paying attention and knowing what your diaphragm's doing. Okay, so let's start by sitting in a comfortable seat and bring your hands onto your knees and let's just do a little bit of a cat-cow while sitting here. So we're just already starting to mobilize our spine a little bit and paying attention to how all the different structures of our body relate to our diaphragm. So what happens? What does it feel like when you round the spine in this seated posture? What does it feel like when you arch the spine? How's the breath? All right, and then do a little circling, kind of move back a little bit. So do a little circling where we're kind of rolling on the seat, just a little bit, kind of sensing your sit bones. And go the other direction. All right, and then pause here for a moment in some stillness. Just pay attention to your breath. We haven't done much yet, but just even that little bit of spinal movement, what has it created in your awareness? We'll save some time at the end for some actual pranayama, manipulation of the breath. But here in the beginning, let's just sense into how is your breath feeling in this moment. Just become aware. You don't have to change anything. You don't have to do anything, just awareness. Can you just notice if there's any place in your body that has a difficulty opening itself up for the breath? It could be the diaphragm, it could be other structures, maybe your ribs or up at your collarbones or even in your low back or your pelvic floor. Remember that the breath is global and lots of things that aren't necessarily right at the diaphragm can impact how we breathe. So just pay attention to what you're feeling. All right, and that's kind of your baseline here of what's happening with your breath right now. And we'll notice how it changes through our practice. Bring our hands to the heart. Bow in and just offer an intention here. Release the hands. And let's find our way onto our back. So take your rolled towel and your ball, your Pilates ball or muscle release ball. Have that with you. Right, and just take a moment to lie down on your back and stretch out through your body and just feel the difference in your breath when you're in this horizontal position versus a vertical position. What changed? Is there anything that's easier about breathing in this position? Is there anything that's harder? All right, and then when you're ready, stretch your arms. See if you can reach through one side and then reach through the other, and just allow some opening and lengthening through your body here. Stretching one side, stretching the other. Maybe out there, up there in space, down there in space with your hands and your feet. Give some wiggles to your toes and your fingers and just know where the edges of your body are. Okay. And then draw your knees into your chest and rock a little bit, a little swing from side to side. All right, hands on your knees and let's circle, kind of rolling your knees a bit. Feel the ease in your low back, soften things up. Melt through your head. Let there be some comfort in the melting of your head down into the ground, soft shoulders. Circle your knees the other way, and checking in with your low back, making sure that there's a real sense of surrender here. And then we'll open up the knees away from the middle and bring them back in toward the middle and just enjoy. All right, and then the right knee into your chest, left leg long on the ground, and let's go ahead and find some mobility, wiggling through your feet. And remember, the sensing of your strength or laxity, of your tension or your ease. It's more than just your diaphragm, it's your core muscles too. So as we move, let's pay attention to the whole kind of area of breath. Cross your right knee over to the left and start finding a twist. A deep breath and a full exhale. Where does the breath go? Where does it empty out? All right, draw that knee back into your chest. Switch sides, left knee in. Give it a good, nice squeeze, and then cross that left knee over to the right and twist open. A breath in, a breath out. Notice where the breath permeates on the inhale. Notice where it leaves on the exhale. And come back to center. Pick up your knees again, a little bit of rocking. Okay. Put your feet down onto the ground, arms out to the sides. Let's roll your wrists a little bit, open and close your fists. And then we'll start to windshield wiper our knees left and right. And turn your head away from your knees in opposition of your knees, just waking up the spine a little bit here. You can always swing that top leg a little deeper if you want. All right, and then pause here for a moment. Grab onto your feet, a happy baby pose, and let your low back open up. Remember, the core is in the back of our body too, not just the front of our body. And then we'll put our legs down onto the ground and just rest here for a moment and just notice your body in space. All right, and then roll over onto your side. If we're going to come onto all fours, finding a cat cow. As you start to move through your spine, notice the core and the front and the back. So stretching through the abdominal muscles, stretching through the paraspinal muscles, seeing if you can feel your vertebrae move, especially, well, all your vertebrae, all your vertebrae. Just kind of freeing up some things in the center of the body. And then wag your tail. Notice your side body's lengthening, getting some of that lateral movement through your spine. And then rest down into child's pose. Walk the hands out in front of you and stretch and lengthen through your shoulders. Opening up through the lats a little bit. Even that can be a part of your breathing. When we lock down our lats, we don't let our full torso have its mobility. So let's walk the hands over to one side and feel that the side body stretch is really covering a lot of territory. Our lats open up, our ribs open up, the muscles between our ribs open up. Even our low back muscles get a stretch here. Walk the hands over to the other side and enjoy. The armpit, the shoulder, the rib cage, all the places where the breath can travel. All right, come back up onto all fours. And then we'll circle through the rib cage a little bit. So chest down, over to the side, up toward the sky, over to the other side. Imagine you're in that tube and we want to press against the tube on all sides. All right, and then move the circle the other direction. See if you can articulate a lot here. How's the breath? Hopefully you're not holding the breath. And then neutral spine, and we'll do the same thing with our pelvis. Do some circles with your hips. Put the paintbrush on your tail and draw a circle on the wall behind you. And then circle the other direction. And you might notice that the rib cage wants to circle too, maybe even your head wants to circle too. Feel free to let any movement come. And then neutral again, and now let's move through our head. You don't have to do a full circle. That may not be good for your neck. You just kind of decide, you can just kind of swoop your head in a semicircle if you want. You can move your neck from side to side. All right, and then a big lateral movement. Drop your hips over right, look left. Back to center, drop your hips left, look right. And then back to a child's pose. Let your head rest. Breathe into the fullness of your spine. Notice the back body breathing. The rib cage motion, the low back motion. Even the sacrum rises and falls. Come back up to all fours. Let's reach one arm up in the air. Give your wrist a little swirl. Maybe open, close your fist. And then we'll drop that shoulder down, twisting to the side. And fill and empty the breath. Stretching those rhomboid muscles between your shoulder blades. And then we'll reach that arm back up in the air. Hand comes down onto the ground and we'll switch sides. Bring the other arm up. Maybe give your hand some movement. And then we'll drop that shoulder down, twisting to this side. Full breaths here. The inhale, the exhale. And then we'll reach that arm back up in the air. Hand comes down onto the ground. Curl the toes under. Let's get the legs open. Come to a dog pose. Take a little time. Start with your feet. Pedal your feet. See if you can feel all the spaciousness come into the bones and joints of your feet. Maybe your Achilles starts to open up a little more thoroughly. Kind of experiment with how you want to stretch your legs. Maybe your pelvis moves around a little bit. Maybe you like to be very still and just feel the fullness of the pose. How's your breath here? And then we'll walk our feet forward, come to Uttanasana, forward fold, relax your head. Inhale for a halfway lift, opening up through the body. Exhale, release again. One more time, a halfway lift, expanding open. Exhale, relaxing down. Push through your feet, rising up. Bring the arms to the sky. Open the heart. Let's cactus, open the chest here. Spread your wings and squeeze the back of your body. And then exhale and round in. Forearms touch. We'll do that one more time. Inhale up. Heart open, squeeze the back. Exhale, round in, open the back. Okay. Arms to the sky, swan dive forward and fold. A halfway lift, expand again. Exhale and relax. Step back to a dog pose. Feel open in the body. Ground yourself, root to rise. How's your breathing? We'll come forward into a plank. Ground yourself. Now, even when we have to have a lot of stability in the core of our body, can we still have the ripple of breath moving? Find the ground. Let's roll those shoulders. Feel some scapular movement here. All right, take a deep breath in. Open up through the front. Cobra pose. Exhale down. One more time. Rising up. Exhale, coming down. Put your head on your hands for a moment. Just lying prone on your belly. Notice the breath here. See if you can feel the diaphragm. You might feel the pressure against the floor changing as your diaphragm moves, your belly moves. Also feel the changing shape of your spine in the back of your body. All right. Let's go ahead and lift back up onto all fours. Move your spine around. Release that pose back into a child's. One more time. Full breath in, full breath out. Feel the breath. And then bring your right foot forward. Come to a lunge. Lift your back knee up off the ground. Okay. Enjoy opening your legs this way. So hamstrings start to open, hip flexors start to open. We'll bend and straighten the front knee. Take your time, link up breath and movement as best as you can. And ground yourself, push through your feet, rising up. Open the heart. So while you're here, get that feeling. Maybe you look up a little bit. Get the heart to expand, the lungs to expand. And release the hand down. Back foot comes forward in a fold. Relax your head. A halfway lift, opening up the body. Exhale and melt. Step the right foot back. Come to a lunge this side. Grounding yourself before you move. And then when you're ready, begin to bend and straighten the front knee. Move with your breath. Slow yourself down so you can feel your breath move you. Where do you inhale? Where do you exhale? And there's no right, there's no wrong. Just pay attention. All right, and ground your legs, push through your feet, rising up for a crescent. Open up through the heart space, feel that expansive energy. The back body is strong, the core is strong, the breath is moving. All right, hands down, back to a dog. Feel that extension again, big breath. Come to a plank. Turn the navel to the right. Back to center. Turn the navel to the left, just waking up those obliques. Back to center. And then lower yourself down. Choose any back bend you want. All right. And then relax. Come up onto all fours. Grab onto your rolled towel, and we'll do the massage along the spine that we sometimes do. I wonder if you ever do this outside of the times that we do it in class. I hope so. It's sometimes easy to forget about these subtle little self-care things that feel so good, but we forget to do them. So have the rolled towel underneath your shoulder blades, kind of high at the spine of the scapula, kind of top of the scapula. And remember, with this, we have two things going on. One, we're moving with our body by using our legs, and the other is the arm movement. So first with your legs, feet on the ground, and we push off our feet to rock top to bottom, crown to tail, rocking. Okay. And then once you have that rhythm going, and if you struggle with this, where your pelvis does some weird tilting and you kind of can't get the rhythm to move through your spine, sometimes putting a bolster against the wall and then your feet up against the bolster so that your feet are flat on the ground can be helpful to ease your quads and to also ease the pelvic tilting so that you can just let the movement originate from your feet but move into your spine. And then with your arms, okay, we're going to have our hands first over our chest. This is slight flexion in the spine. And then arms overhead, extension in the spine. And then the arms come back overhead and turn your head and bring your arms to one side for a little rotation in the spine. And then to the other side. And now you can move through this as slow or as fast as you want, but try not to go too fast. Don't let your pace be hurried. See if you can just enjoy what you're feeling. And then you move the rolled towel down a little bit and go again. Okay, so same three motions of the arms over your chest and then over your head, and then turning your head and arms to one side, and then arms and head to the other side. This is such a gentle way of just nourishing all those little tiny ligaments and tendons and muscles that are in between our vertebrae. And like I said before, remember that the breath, of course, our diaphragm is the main engine, but there's so much global apparatus when it comes to our breath. It's not just our diaphragm. We have so much that involves itself in whether we breathe well or not. Our ribs, I mean, just so much. Our core, our ribs, so much. And let alone our mind, our emotional states and our physical states. Are you breathing while you're doing this? Try not to hold the breath. The whole goal here is to free ourselves for breathing. The rocking can be very nice for the nervous system too. And never underestimate, even though the vagus nerve doesn't innervate the diaphragm, the phrenic nerve innervates the diaphragm, but the vagus nerve very much has a lot to do with that autonomic nervous system, which is very tied into how we breathe. So when we diaphragmatically breathe, when we breathe slow and full through our diaphragm, it impacts our vagus nerve. We get a cue in the nervous system that says all is well. The parasympathetic fibers of the vagus nerve light up. Okay, so one of the best things we can do for maintenance of our nervous system is to breathe well. When you get to, the spots around your diaphragm, feel free to kind of hang in there a little bit and just notice, is there any specific part of this sequence that's very, either you have some pain or discomfort, or maybe it just feels really good. So I'm at my diaphragm now. I can feel my diaphragm when I do this, and there's a nice gentle release where suddenly it feels like, oh, I can take a deep breath. So notice, we all know that feeling of when something lets go and you can suddenly take a deep breath. Could be an emotional letting go. It could be changing your environment, letting go. It could be something as simple as the actual diaphragm letting go. And if you're already down to your low back, I'm not quite there yet, but if you're already down there, remember you can bring your knees to your chest and kind of rock top and bottom and side to side with your knees hugged in instead of feet on the floor. And you can take a couple of passes like that if you'd like. Notice the things that bind your diaphragm. Do you have clothes that are too tight? Do you have a bra that's too tight? Do you have any restriction at all that could just be removed simply by changing what you're wearing? Waistbands that are too tight, neck things that are too tight. And when you get to the low back, maybe there's a couple of spots in that low back where you just kind of have a little bit of movement, whatever feels nice, explore. Notice your breath. You may feel like, what am I doing? And just kind of rolling around, and you never underestimate the power of this to make you feel good. I really, truly, it can be something so soothing for the body, soothing for the muscles, soothing for the nervous system. And then when you get back down onto bones, so your sacrum, then you can put your feet back down on the ground and continue. And you don't have to do the arms. Of course, you can still do the arms. But when you get to the pelvis, if you want to have a quiet upper body and just really focus on what the pelvis is feeling, you can try that too. There is still some merit in the arm positions. But maybe you want to just really focus on what the sacrum is feeling and be a little quieter. Sometimes I'm down on my sacrum now. Sometimes when I get onto my sacrum, what I really want is to just put my hands on my low belly so I can just sense from the front and back what's happening in my pelvis. So, just kind of follow your instincts. And then when you get to the tailbone, you're going to lose the pressure again. So when that happens, instead of bringing your knees to your chest like we did when we lost the pressure on our low back, we'll straighten our legs all the way, and we'll flex and point our feet so that we're kind of pushing off our heels to get that last little bit of massage across the tail. All right, so keep going if you are keeping going. And when you're ready to be done, either lie flat for a moment with your legs flat or bend your knees, but just notice the spine. Maybe pick up your shoulder blades and drop them down the back a little bit. And just pay attention to the breath in the back of your body. How do you feel like this impacted your breathing? All right. Now we're going to roll over onto our front, grab your ball, and we don't want the ball to be very inflated. We want, like half inflation or so, maybe even less. You can experiment with how much you want the ball to be inflated. And we're going to place the ball, start right at your chest, on your sternum. And you can put your head on your hands, you can put your head on a blanket or a block, and just a little bit of rocking left and right on the sacrum. I mean, on the sternum. Now, hopefully, you didn't just eat, because this can be hard if you have food in your belly. So, if you did have a good breakfast before yoga today, bravo for feeling yourself, but this may not feel the greatest. And you can always do this um, standing against a wall with your chest against the wall as well. It's a little less pressure than being on your belly. So, if your low back hurts or if you feel like it's too much pressure, you can stand up. So we're going to take the ball a little bit lower so it's kind of on that zygomatic arch or zygomatic what do you call it? The little bone that's at the bottom of your sternum. Okay, zygomatic process. All right, so and now a little bit of rocking, and this is where if the ball's too inflated, it's going to be too much. Okay. And you can start to rock a little bit and roll on your rib cage. So just kind of rolling over to the left, rolling over to the right, and just experiment getting a little bit of massage. Sometimes I like to go, I this is just one of the things I do. I bring one knee up and kind of come onto one side of my bottom ribs and roll on the bottom ribs. Because remember, your diaphragm attaches onto the lower rib cage. So we want to kind of get into all the little nooks and crannies here. Sometimes I do this with it's called a miracle ball. It's a smaller ball than this big ball, but it's very squishy. You don't want to put like a tennis ball or anything that hard in here, but a smaller, squishier ball can sometimes get a little bit more pinpointy into some of these nooks, and it can feel really nice. Switch legs if you're doing this variation. Go to the other side and just sense into some mobilization around the front rib cage. Okay. And then come back to the ball in the center and just breathe here. And you can put the ball a little lower if you want, a little higher, just you can inflate it, deflate it, just find what works. Notice the diaphragm. All right, and then we'll come out of there, bring that left knee up again, and this time stick the ball right at the groin, so right at the hip crease, and we're just going to get into the psoas a little bit here. So no movement needed, just let your body breathe here. And you can use whatever prop you want to prop your forehead up so you have a little bit of gap for your nose. You can also turn your head if you'd like. If you're going to turn your head, turn it to the left toward, the same direction with that bent knee. And wherever the ball is, let's just breathe. Sometime soon, I'll do the technique where we lay on a bolster and do this and do more movement to kind of get into the psoas a little bit more. But for now, just breathe into the psoas. Remember that the psoas and the diaphragm attach at the same spots on your vertebrae. They speak to one another. So if we can melt the diaphragm, we can tell the diaphragm. I mean, if we can melt the psoas, the diaphragm gets the message. And relax that knee. And we'll come and bring the right knee up. And just to show you, this is where the ball is. Kind of right at the hip crease, where your psoas is. Okay. So you find your favorite spot. Move it up a little, move it down a little bit, rock a little bit on it, explore what's there. If you want to turn your head to the right. Breathing deep. Try to sense the subtlety of this. Melt your psoas as best as you can. What are you noticing? Can you let go of something? All right, relax that. Come onto your back now. We're gonna go 360 around different parts of our body, kind of coming at the diaphragm from a lot of different angles. Put your feet on the ground, bridge pose, stick the block under your sacrum. Now, sometimes we've done core work here where we've lifted our legs and find some balancing, but today we're just resting. So see if you can become as still as possible on this ball. and then move your breath. The psoas muscles on both sides that you just freed a little bit, sense them here. Breathe well. All right. Now, hopefully that released your back a little bit. We're going to roll onto our side. Grab a block from your head or a blanket and stick the ball right at the bottom edge of your rib cage. Okay. A little support here. We're going to start here and go, and then we'll do a pass up higher, but start right at the bottom of your rib cage. And we're just going to breathe on the ball like we've been doing. Just breathe on the ball. Now you might decide, oh, my body's telling me to move this ball down, or my body's telling me to keep it right here, or my body's telling me to move the ball up. So I want you to listen to that inner voice. We're starting right in the middle of, being able to move up and down so you can sense what your body wants. My body wants me to move it down. I wonder what your body wants. Now, of course, you can have some movement if you want to rock, like rolling forward a little bit, rolling back a little bit, kind of sliding and gliding on this. Just sense into what your body is wanting to release for the breath. So whether you moved it a little up or a little down or stayed right where you are, notice your choice. What was calling to you and why? All right, now we're going to move the ball all the way up to the upper ribs, kind of near your armpit. And same, supporting your head, bending your knees. You can always stick a blanket between your knees if you'd like. The hand and the loose hand can be in front of you to support you. And then, of course, if you want movement, do a little rocking. If you want stillness, do a little stillness. But pay attention to the breath. Try not to lose sight of what we're doing here. This is nourishment for the breathing. All right, now we're going to repeat that on the second side. So as we come over, start with the ball right at the bottom of the ribs. And just be here for a moment. Maybe a little rocking, maybe a little stillness. And as you settle into this side, now pause and ask your body, do I want to move up or down or stay right where I'm at here with the ball? Just try to listen to what the body's calling for. So if this side feels different to me, I'm going to leave it right where it is. Whereas the other side, I felt the desire to move it down. So pay attention to the subtlety of what the body's asking for. It will always tell you if you listen. The key is to get quiet enough to listen. to become patient and still enough to listen. Okay, let's go ahead and move if you'd like, be still if you'd like. Whatever position you're choosing, try to notice what the benefit of this is. Stay in presence with yourself. Try not to, even though we're doing, a very different kind of practice today, we're not moving a whole lot. Can you keep the awareness, the body awareness, the presence alive? Are you breathing? Fill and empty the breath. All right, and then when you're ready, move the ball underneath the higher rib cage. Have a couple of good breaths here. Breathing into the ball. Feel free to be still. Feel free to rock a little bit on the ball. Make some noise if you want to. Is the diaphragm letting go? Are you feeling surrender? Sometimes it takes a long while for the diaphragm. You can kind of move in all these different ways we're moving. And I only now am starting to feel a real release in my diaphragm after everything we've done for the last, bit to help open things up. All right. And then when you're ready, we'll stop that and take a moment to kind of release. We're going to come up to a seated posture to do a little bit of pranayama. But if there's a part of your body that needs a little release, do any postures that are needed, maybe your back or maybe you need a twist. I don't know what you need, but whatever you need in your body, if you need something, go ahead and do it. And then we'll all find our way to a comfortable seat. And you can sit crisscross, you can sit in Virasana, have as much support as you need under your body. Maybe you need a little support underneath your knees. Maybe you're sitting and you take a little proppage underneath your legs. So you want to be in a very comfortable position where the pelvis is neutral. You're not too tipped forward or rolled back. You have a nice neutral curve in your lumbar spine. And notice your breath. Try not to hold your belly in. Okay, the belly will move. We don't want to leave it falling out. We don't want to leave it falling in. We want a mobile belly. We want a mobile pelvic floor. We want mobile ribs. Okay, so everything we've done thus far hopefully has helped you free the diaphragm in its mobility. So let's just start with some simple Ujjayi breath. Full deep inhale and a full deep exhale. Feeling the rib cage start to expand from the bottom and working its way into expansion as it travels up. And then on the exhale, we feel that same sequence of release. Slow the breath down. Breathing through the nose, finding that, a little bit of restriction of the channel of the breath so that where breath is steady stream, slow, steady stream. Diaphragmatic breathing. Nothing's being pushed or pulled or prodded. Just opening yourself up for slow breath, deep, slow breath. Notice if there's anything in your way. Hey, are you pushing too hard? Maybe your mind's in your way. Maybe your will is in the way. Maybe there's tension somewhere that's in the way. See if you can clear the way. Notice the back of you as much as the front. Notice the sides. Notice the top and bottom. Notice your posture. Notice any tension creeping in shoulders, face, jaw, tongue, eyes, hands, diaphragm, ribs. Is there any place that tension's creeping? See if you can melt. A lot of times when we think of diaphragmatic breathing, we think we have to top the tank and get really big and like kind of push the edges of our breath. Try to invite patience and just let the breath come. So we're not pushing the breath in, we're not trying to fill every nook and cranny and kind of over expand. We're just releasing the diaphragm so that the full lung tissue can take its oxygenation. Let the diaphragm mobilize on the exhale, where you feel that there's a contraction of your abdominal muscles a little bit, and your diaphragm draws in and up. So there's mobility. It doesn't have to be clenching and gripping and pushing, but there's mobilizing, that you expand and you condense. Again, relax anything that can be relaxed. All right, and then when you're ready, let's bring this down onto the ground for Shavasana. Again, if there's any pose that you need to release your spine or your hips or your knees or anything at all, do that. If your core body temperature went down because the practice has been pretty gentle, maybe you need a blanket to cover yourself for Shavasana. But when you come into this pose, maybe see if your knees need support or your head. And then once you get comfortable, see if you can take up a little room. Maybe take your legs a little wider than you normally do, or your arms a little further away from your torso than you normally do, and just let your body get spacious. Take up space. Melt onto the ground, into the ground. And feel that full diaphragmatic breath here. Let's begin to deepen our breath again. Start to move your body in any way that serves you. Find your way into some full body stretch. Where I feel that expansive nature of the breath. And then eventually coming to your side and gently bring yourself upright. And just notice as you come to a seat if there's ease in your nervous system, if there's ease in your breath, if you have more space to breathe, if there's something that's let down, or if your guard is let down, or if something's let go. Are you more comfortable in some way because the breath is released? Let's bring our hands together and offer the gift of our breath. Send your energy to another. Namaste. Thank you, everyone.